someone stuffed up big time in the US, it's not often that you see a rebrand get completely rolled back due to the customer's dissatisfaction. And even rarer still, the President of the United States has something to say about it. You know the saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity? Well, I have a cracker here, pardon the pun. Cracker Barrel in the US has just put that theory to the test because their new rebrand created so much noise, even Donald Trump weighed in. And not in a good way. Let's have a look at Cracker Barrel's rebrand and what went so wrong. So what happened? Cracker Barrel is a classic American country store chain. We don't have it here. In fact, I've actually never heard of it, but they've had the same logo since the late 70s. Warm, rustic, nostalgic, and instantly recognizable. So why did they want to rebrand in the first place? And what was the point? From what I understand, the business was slowly decreasing in performance and revenue. The perfect reason to do a rebrand. They were looking to connect with a different audience and reposition the brand to most likely become more relevant in the marketplace. Now, at first glance, even to me, not a customer, the brand looks dated. It's got a really nice custom font. The C comes into the B really nicely here. But the old guy does look dated. It's old, blocky lines. There's not a lot of detail. You know, should a logo have a lot of detail? Should it just be the anchor to the brand? I wouldn't have lost this guy in the barrel. I think he's really important to the heart of the brand. And, you know, even the copy here and the shape just looks really rustic and nostalgic. It's got a lot of heritage to it. Now, if I go over to the new logo, you can kind of also see, you know, comparing the two here, it's got some nice little, you know, serifs built in and carved away here. And the new font, you know, it's got more of a rounded edge on here, a little bit softer. The fonts are very different, but it still has a similar feel. The B's lost its small top and big bottom. Yeah, it's lost its sharp edge. So it's a little bit more friendlier, in my opinion. And obviously they've shrunk or increased the size of the white space around the logo. I actually like the logo. I think it's a nice logo. As I said, I wouldn't have gotten rid of the guy, and I probably wouldn't have got rid of the red either. I think the red is a really strong color for them. So if you're going to make a big, bold move of changing the logo so drastically and minimizing it, I think you still need to connect the brand with the red. So I wouldn't have removed the red for a bit more of a colder, darker color. Let's have a look at some other parts of the brand here. That's a bit more of a close-up of the logo. Once again, don't mind it. I do like the shape as well. It's still got a little bit of a rustic kind of organic feel to it. Here's a bit more of the brand. So they've really gone for that dark black. I think it is a black or a charcoal color. And they've brought in some other colors here as well. They've gone a little bit more, in my opinion, retro, and they've lost the nostalgia. So, yeah, there's some parts I love. So I don't mind the photos. I don't mind these little badges they've created here. But yeah, I'm not sure about the color palette. It's a little bit jarring, and I would have preferred something a little bit more friendlier. I like that they've gone for the warm colors, given that it's in the food industry. And here's the packaging, which I actually really don't like. It's really bland and dark and dull, and I don't think they've nailed the packaging at all. Yeah, don't think they've nailed it. But you know, taking on a rebrand, it's never that easy. And I'm sure they went through lots of iterations to get to here, but I think they've used brown too much, the dark colors too much. It just doesn't look like I want to eat this stuff. It's just very cold and minimal. So yeah, they're my thoughts on the rebrand. Yeah, I don't hate it, but I can see why there was such an uproar when you look at the difference between these two. They feel very, very different. The backlash was instant. Memes, outrage, commentary. Even Donald Trump had his 2 cents on Truth Social. The CEO responded, and she said she felt like she was fired by the American people. So they had a choice. They had a choice to make, and the brand was publicly bullied back into its old identity. This is an important lesson and also illustrates the power your brand has at connecting to your audience, and why we should never forget how your brand makes customers feel, not just what it looks like. Your brand is an experience and a perception. And for a brand as old as Cracker Barrel, you have to be very, very considerate when making bold moves with a new brand identity. So what really went wrong? This wasn't necessarily a design problem. The new logo design is elegant, thoughtful, and well executed. I haven't seen all of the touch points, so I'm not sure how corporate they went with everything, which is an easy mistake to make when you're rebranding a business, is just to lose all of that personality. But this was a customer perception problem. People didn't go to Cracker Barrel for minimalism and cold corporate feels. They went for nostalgia. They went for the country, vintage Americana vibe. For the imperfect lines, the warmth, the story, the feeling of home and familiarity. And that's the thing about brand. You're not designing for yourself, which is where a lot of CEOs and business owners fall over, and why it's important to work with a brand strategist to identify all of these risks along the way. We have to remember we're designing for the people who love you. Cracker Barrel didn't lose customers because the logo was too modern. They lost them because the rebrand ripped out that emotional anchor that people attached to the brand for almost 50 years. They didn't manage the story, they didn't protect the heritage, and they didn't communicate the why. And when you leave a story gap, people will fill it with their own meaning, which is why in this case, it was outrage. The heart of a brand is never about money. And when you strip a brand like this back to a more corporate, minimalist approach, the customers feel it. Now, as much as I like the new identity, if it were me, I probably wouldn't have gone this far. Heritage brands need evolution, not replacement. In my opinion, they removed too much. You protect the recognizable parts and you modernize with restraint, and you bring customers on that journey. What I would have done is keep the iconic character, but perhaps evolve it into something that feels the same, but more polished. A 2025 version of this. I definitely would have modernized the typography slightly, which to be honest, they've done a pretty good job of, but I would have protected the nostalgia while improving legibility. Communicate the purpose of the update and show it evolving, not abandoning its roots. Because when you're dealing with a brand built on memory and tradition, you can't just rip the heart out and expect, yay, good job, guys. The backlash here was well deserved. So here's my takeaway for business owners. A brand refresh should never be about looking modern or keeping up. It has to be rooted in customer perception, emotional connection, memory, meaning, and the brand story you're trying to protect. If you don't start there, even the most beautiful design can fall flat. A rebrand isn't a stylistic decision, it's a strategic one. And as Cracker Barrel just learned the hard way, when you change the wrong thing, you can break the emotional contract between you and your customers overnight. So if you're considering a rebrand in your own business, big or small, take this as a warning or a reminder. Design does matter, but what your brand means to your customers matters more. And if you want to involve your brand without losing the parts that your customers love, that's exactly what we do here at Embark. Let's leave your mark.